Hi everyone, just a quick reminder that if you want to follow along the journey of making this dress in real time with me, both on Instagram and YouTube, then please consider supporting me on Patreon. You get to choose how much to pledge per month, and you will receive live updates both on my close friends' Instagram stories and access to all of the YouTube videos right now. Hope you enjoy the video. Hello, so it is the 28th of June. And I am starting on the mock-up for live-action Aurora's Bodice. So the pattern I'm using is the truly Victorian 1860s ball gown bodice, TV 442 if you are wanting to try out this pattern yourself. I've just cut out and taped together the bodice front and bodice back pieces, as you can see here. And I've also got some polypoplin fabric here, and I'm going to make the bodice mock-up out of this fabric. What I am thinking of doing is not actually having the closure of this bodice in the center back. I'm thinking of having it actually in the center front, and it would close with hooks and eyes, and then the back would just be all one piece. So that's what I'm thinking, and yeah. Oh, and I've also got the instructions up on my computer screen. I'll just show you what the bodice looks like. So I am mainly after having all of these seams, and then yeah, I think just using a pattern will be much easier than draping it myself. And the sizing chart, I have gone with size C, because I do know that the waist measurement that I need is 26 inches, so I'm going with that, and if I do need to make any adjustments, I'm pretty sure they'll be minor. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and cut this out of my fabric. I'm so silly, I forgot about the side back piece, so I had to cut that out, and then I've also cut it out of my mock-up fabric as well. So the next thing I'm going to do is actually sew the mock-up together, and also with all of my mock-up pieces I'm just going to use one layer of the poplin fabric. It is probably quite thin and not the best way to do it, because it won't give me an indication of how the fabric will actually lie, but I don't care, so I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to make the mock-up out of this one single layer of fabric. So I've just finished sewing all of the seams together. You can see here there's the back panel, the side backs, and then the two front panels, which will fold over and then close in the front with hooks and eyes, hopefully, like that. One thing I didn't mention before, I forgot to mention it actually, is that I purposefully cut like way outside where the guidelines were to mark for the actual cutting out of the bodice. So I've marked with pencil where the pattern tells me to cut. So they're telling me to cut this V shape, and then this would be the strap that goes just off the shoulder. But because I'm not sure if I actually want that design or if I want something that starts up here above the shoulder, I've cut like way outside the line so I can have that excess fabric to work with when draping it on my dress form, and likewise with the back panel. So this line here with pencil is the marking guideline from the actual pattern piece of where I need to cut, but then I purposefully cut upwards up here to have that excess material to see if I perhaps want the shoulder piece to start up on the actual shoulder rather than off the shoulder. So yeah, and the instructions tell me to sew the shoulder seams next. So what they suggested was sew all of the darts in the front, and then sew the side, no, then sew the back to the side backs, and then sew the bodice pieces at the sides. So that's what I did. Usually you would flatline the pieces, but because this is a mock-up, I'm not doing any of that, so trying to keep it nice and simple, just to achieve the right sort of shape. Yeah, so next I'm going to pop this up on the dress form and work out how I want the shoulder pieces to lay. I've got the bodice mock-up draped on the dress form now, and I've just pinned down the front, and then I've also tucked under the edges where, you know, where this is just excess seam allowance, so that would look like that when it's actually sewn properly. Around the back, I've just tucked this under as well, but I can't decide on a lot of things right now. But I can't decide whether or not I want this point at the center back, or if I want to just keep it straight and attach it to the skirt waistband at that point there, sort of similar to an 18th century front closing dress, where you've got the back and the back skirt panel all in one, like it's joined all together, and then it's just the front of the bodice that's separate, so you can put it on that way. So I'm still deciding on what to do on the back there, but the other thing that I can't decide for the back part is how deep I want this thing to go. So the corset probably stops at around this point here, and I was thinking of having like a nice V shape that goes down to that point, but I don't know, I'm not sure, so I'll leave that for now. The other decision that I need to make is the shoulder piece things. So I definitely know that I want the bodice to have a V-neck, probably not this low, probably about here, so I'll just have to take note of that. But then the other thing I can't decide is whether or not I want to do the whole off the shoulder type of look, or if I want it to be on the shoulder. Now if I have it on the shoulder like that, I would not have, hopefully not have this folding happening. Ideally it would just be, so if I just pull this fabric out a bit, ideally I would just cut along there to give it that shape. But because I've got excess fabric, I've just sort of folded it and trying to see how it would look without actually cutting away at the fabric. So it's either the left side or the right side. I just don't know. Because there is also going to be the long tulle or netting sleeves. Yeah, I don't know. So because I don't know, and these things take time for me to figure out, I am going to call it a day. I have been working on this for about 3 hours now. So yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking that the original idea was to go with something that looks more like this, where it's on the shoulder but just at the very edge, and there's a deep V-neck. But my concern with that is, one, I don't tend to like things that leave my upper arm quite bare. And then the other thing is I think that looks quite modern, which, I mean, it's not a bad thing. It's just that it's nice to have something a bit different. But then what I've got over here, even though it's a bit different in comparison to modern clothing, it's not different to all of my other costumes, because basically all of my other costumes have that off-the-shoulder style anyway. Yeah, and I've also not decided yet if I want the netting sleeves to be detachable or not, and if they are detachable, how would they actually attach to these shoulder pieces. So that's the other thing that I've got to keep in mind. Yeah, and I'm also, like I was saying about the back here, that I would attach it to the waistband of the skirt. I'm also not sure if I really want to do that, or if I just want to have a separate skirt and a separate bodice. This is the side view, and the thing is, if I was not attaching the bodice to the skirt, and I had this piece like that, please ignore just pretend that it's all finished nicely and you've got nice edges, not raw edges, so it looks something like that. If I had that piece at the back, it would look really funny because it would just stick out. At least that's what I'm thinking. And I don't know. I mean, it would form a good base for the flowers to sit on top of, because I know that I want flowers here. And it would also help if I did want to bustle up the skirt, I could attach some sort of attachment hook thing just underneath this flappy part to hide it. So I just don't know. Whereas if I do attach the bodice to the skirt and have it more like an 18th century style dress, I feel like the back would just be super duper flat. But then I'm also going to have the netting overlay, and I'm hoping that I can bunch it up a lot here, and yeah. But then, this is the other thing, if I do have the netting overlay bunching up at the center back here, that means that if I do want to bustle up the dress, it would not be, there wouldn't be like a very secure, strong place exactly to bustle it up to, because the whole bodice is attached to it. Whereas if it was just the bodice separate to the skirt, I could attach the bustle part of the skirt to the actual skirt, which would be fine. I hope this makes sense, because it probably doesn't to you. I'm sorry. Things will be clearer as I actually just go ahead and work on this. Yeah, so I've got a few decisions to make, obviously. So I am going to leave the bodice like this on the mannequin, maybe for the next week. And every time I come to the dress form, I can think about what it is that I actually want to do, because right now I don't know. Another afterthought, so I just wanted to say it before I forget it. I'm thinking that I could in fact have this center back piece flap over the top of the skirt, because the tulle or netting overlay for the skirt, if I have that really, really gathered at the center back, then it would create that outwards shape anyway, and this would not look so out of place. So that's another thing to consider. Yeah. And then that way I could have a separate bodice to the skirt. Still need to think about it, but that's an idea. Hello, it's now Sunday the 5th of July, and this has been sitting on the dress form for the week, and I've decided that I want to do on the shoulder straps rather than off the shoulder. So I've marked out where I want my straps to be and the neckline, and same goes with the back. So I'm thinking about a V shape in the back that goes down to a point up there, and I would want the straps to have the seam line behind the shoulder almost. So that's the plan. I'm going to chop off the excess fabric and then try on this mock-up bodice on myself, and hopefully I like it on myself. One other thing is I think I might need to cut the armholes deeper, and hopefully that will fit. And once I've tried it on myself, if I like it, then I'm going to go ahead and make the proper bodice. So I've got the bodice on now, and as you can see, it does not fit. So there are many things that I need to change about this bodice. So let's start with the front. Obviously the front is too loose at the waist and too tight and doesn't fit at the bust and this whole section. So I am going to have to extend the pattern piece so it fits across the front. The neckline, I think that will just have to wait until I've actually fixed up the front so it actually fits over. The darts I'm okay with, so the darts do come up quite high, and this would obviously have boning in it in the actual bodice, so that would lay more like that. The straps, I'm also thinking that needs to wait until I've got this front part closing up right. But the straps seem to be okay. This part here is like really short on me. I keep forgetting that I actually have a very long torso, so I am going to have to extend this part by about an inch or two so it actually reaches my waist and doesn't just sit above it. And then turning around to the back, I don't know if you can see that, but the back neckline, I can cut that way deeper because my actual corset is really deep in the back, so I can get away with a more deep V-back, which is what I'm after, so I think I'm going to change that as well. And I don't know what to do about this. So it's obviously really big here, and I don't know whether or not to take it in at those centre back seams or take it in from the side, and that would bring it in sort of. I don't know, but there are obviously many changes that I need to make to this. I'm not happy with it, so I am going to make another bodice mock-up and make those adjustments to it, and we'll have to do another try-on.